All right, for Maurits, how is the relevance calculated? Is it simply the activation output of each node?
There are multiple techniques for this, and an older one called gradient X input is doing exactly that. But it has shown that this does not yield the best results. So there are a lot of different rules. There's no one layer-wise relevance propagation rule. There are a bunch of them. For example, some of them have a certain threshold to them, where very small activations don't simply get ignored. This makes the result far more stable. If you want to go deeper into this, if you search for layer-wise relevance propagation, there are multiple amazing overviews of the different techniques. And in combination, they provide those amazing explanations. So it is not simply the reverse activation, but it is in most cases simply the reverse activation with a small add-on, simply depending on where you are in your network, if you're working on high-level features or very low-level features.
All right, thanks. I guess I will go to Tarek. Another question: how does a neural network work? Backdrop, at least we can point that to the data it learned from. Why do we find these data-based decisions so much harder to digest than human intuition-based decisions?
Well, there's two levels to that, right? And I think focusing on the end of the question, it's a question about the difference between artifacts we engineer and a kinship arguments to fellow humans. So there is no way how we can conclusively determine what made a human do what he or she did. If we ask them after the fact, it probably is post-rationalization anyway. Still, this does not necessarily mean that we cannot hold artifacts and technologies we develop to higher standards. Humans have the advantage that we instinctively trust other humans, and we, in a way, rely there on a thought of other humans behaving ethically, behaving responsibly, behaving good. This reasoning breaks down when we talk about technology. So with technology, the standards are higher than with other fellow humans, but also the opportunities are more, because we can shape and develop technology whilst, well, humans come the way they come, right?
All right, thanks, Tarek. Damien, we got a question for you. Having mentioned knowledge, what role do you think symbolic AI will play moving forward?
Well, symbolic AI, symbolic AI can definitely help. There is some fresh work on applying the transformers, which are normally used for when you have a sequence of words one after the other. The transformers are able to capture the importance of the single words and mix them into a whole. And I think maybe it's regarding symbolic, when we start speaking about symbols, it could be the knowledge graph, where we have a lot of entities related one to another into a large graph. And all these entities, they're going to be captured using techniques applied usually to sequences of words, but this time extending these techniques to structures of concepts. And this can allow to find similar groups, subgraphs. So for example, I know that I work with a company, which I won't name for privacy, and they are looking into identifying similar processes that their employees follow. So their employees may be working on products that are very similar, and they capture the activity of their employees via a large graph, so knowledge graph. So for example, if they uploaded some data, if they wrote something in the wiki, this is all noted down in the graph. And they are looking for mechanisms to identify similar patterns in their activity so that the groups which work on similar products could be put together and a lot of productivity can emerge from the collaboration. So this is one answer. So the short answer, symbolic similarity can be detected between symbols, and this can help put people together.
All right, thanks. All right, I would go back to Maurits. Another question. How can we make the algorithms learn that they need to learn instead of a stupid correlation?
So the examples we discussed are, I mean, the first example, obviously, there is a certain correlation if the animals live in their natural habitats. And in that case, this might something you do not want the system to forget. Because obviously, if there is a strong correlation between wolves living in snowier regions, then this is useful information for the system. The problem arrives mostly at the like if you transfer this to a more critical field, because the major problem is you want to understand what it focuses on, not because you always want to prevent it from focusing on certain elements, but that you then can decide if it is okay that the system focuses on this. For example, if you instead of having snow in the background, the system would focus on for example, if you have human data instead of animals, and the snow in the background is a correlation that makes a decision-making process in hiring sexist, then obviously you have to work around this, because there it really harms. So it depends from case to case. Either you need to change something about your input data, because if you put in, for example, sexist data into the system will make decisions based upon this. So it really depends from case to case if you should change things around with the data, or if the correlation is a fine correlation, the system really can work with. But it's the worst case scenario, in my opinion, is if you don't know why the system is making such decisions.
Right. Thanks, Maurits. A question for me regarding the time prediction estimation of saved hours spent on clinical study using smart highlighting. What is it based on? It is simply based on our own estimation. So we did the work ourselves, we applied the technology, and we calculated the time spent. We have contacts with a big, let's say, medical institution here in Berlin we're working with, and they're providing us with the data, of course, under the data privacy restrictions. And we did the estimations after applying the tool, and we came up with those numbers. If you are interested in knowing more about this, feel free to contact us in this regard. Another question for Damien, having mentioned, no, we talked about the symbolic. I'm looking for another question for Damien. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing a lot. So maybe this is a question, I guess, a general question for all of us. Is XAI going to be the future of AI, or a lighter legislation-friendly version of it?
Well, I don't think it's only about legislation. It's more about customers wanting to understand, and people, especially in the industry, being not very not being willing to take any risks. So maybe legislation is going to come on top, just like the GDPR. So GDPR was for privacy, and this could be for explainability. But I think the main drive is much more practical than legislative.
Thanks, Damien. I would love to hear your opinion on this, Tarek.
Yeah, building upon that, funnily, actually, GDPR is possibly already relevant for explainability. If you have a look at, and now please don't hold me to that, but I believe it was somewhere in section 13, there is a sentence postulating, and I'm paraphrasing, that the subject of automated decision-making has the right to gain insight into the logic underlying the decision. The sentence is a miracle of wordsmithing, but it is very mysterious what is actually meant with it. And as far as I'm aware, the highest courts in Europe have not yet tried a case where they would have had to interpret it. Anyway, this could fall in the direction that actually for automated decision-making systems, people might have a right to understand how the decision was taken. What that then means in turn, like whether there has to be a human in the loop so that someone explains to you why the decision why that decision was taken, or whether the system can answer is a different question. But generally, I stand by what Damien said. So legislation is one case and one side, but user acceptance of products is an often underestimated factor in all of this. We currently are quite naive. So I don't know who has a smart home speaker next to them in the living room. There is quite some ML in that. So the intent classifier, your voice to text, all of that is ML based. None of you up to now probably asked whether that makes sense. This could dramatically change the first time something goes wrong. And then when we move into health, into automotive, semi-autonomous driving, all of that, sure. The question we currently witness, and I think that is completely undecided, is where as a society we're moving. If people now become more and more aware the way they became aware of problems around data privacy 5 or 10 years ago, that explainability is a topic, it could well be that soon enough, and for instance, the involvement of the AI Association of Germany points in that direction, soon enough companies become aware that this is important. On the other hand, it could just burn out. Like it could just be that people are like, actually, I really like that smart home speaker. It's amazing. It never fails. I don't care how it does it. And then, yeah, we had a couple of interesting discussions, but the consumer will decide.
And also one more thing is it really depends upon the field. So fortunately or not, the military is looking into applications and there they really want to have explainability. If it's about killing somebody, obviously. Medical data, as we spoke, this is like one major area. But when it's about recommending cat pictures, you can guess we don't need so much explainability.
Thank you. All right, I guess this is a really interesting question and related to the one before. What if there is a case when the AI final prediction outperforms XAI plus human decision? This is a funny and interesting question. Maurits, you want to say something about it?
Just to be sure about the question, as far as I understand, it's about fields in which the AI has reached a I don't like this term because it sounds so general, but a superhuman performance state. Like in a very narrow task, but still outperforming humans. One can have a look at DeepMind's Agent 57, for example, where it outperforms the human average on lots of different games. I think that is what the question aims to ask. I think that the idea that it outperforms XAI in general, I would not agree with that, since XAI should be viewed in that case more of a broader field with many different applications. Since, I mean, Tarek and I talked both about XAI, but about completely different algorithms that achieve in different areas completely different things. So I think that as we have seen with the development of more complex AI systems, the development of XAI systems progresses, and many of the XAI systems, for example, the layer-wise relevance propagation is so fully immersed in the in deep neural networks that no matter how big those networks get, the system can still function. So I'm from my side and from my technical understanding of this and what the question meant, I would not think that this is a state that that could be achieved.
If I may add something to that, once again, more being my philosopher self, the question is, what kind of society do you want to live in? So do you want to live in a society where performance in terms of quantitative performance over a possibly large test set is the only decisive factor? You could in this way actually say you're living in a utilitarian ethics world. So if a system outperforms another system, be it technological or human, you just adopt the best performing one. Then you have one answer to the question. If you want to live in a world and a society where there is additional values, so say value ethics, where, for instance, insight into decisions or control by the individual has to be weighed up against the system performance, then you will get a different answer to the question you asked there. And one of the things which is, I think, almost overdue to happen is, and this is now also a plea to everyone listening in, is that society starts discussing and deciding about that. XAI is a corner case of this. This is generally also a question about AI. What if an artificial system is better at a task than a human? Do we have to replace the human, or is there something to still having a doctor there instead of a medical diagnosis system?
All right, thanks a lot. I guess I would take the last question, and then, of course, I have to apologize for all the guys that have raised all the questions, very interesting questions I'm reading through, but unfortunately we are running out of time, so I would take the last question. Yeah, let it be a bit more technical. Technically, XAI use new paradigm and algorithms or different deployments. I don't know, Maurits, Damien.
So it's, yeah, maybe I would try to start the answer. Maybe Maurits can complete if there is anything more interesting to say. So it uses classical AI methods, yes, but with some mechanisms to capture the importance, to capture to attribute the decisions, indeed. And there is some continuum. This is also what I touch upon in my research, between then the human, the decision could reside entirely on the human side, or it could reside entirely on the AI side. And XAI tries to cover the continuum between the two. And so forth, it's a mix of human data analysts with like the SQL queries that we've known and loved for 20 years, and the neural networks, which are more opaque, and we try to find a mix in between. So it's an extension really of AI. Yeah.
Anyone wants to comment on that? Tarek, Maurits?
I would fully agree with that. Like I like this extension thought much more than this replacement, since in my opinion, those techniques are additions to the system and not replacements or anything. So I like this. I like Damien's comment.
Cool. Yep, I guess with that, we're coming to the end of our event. Let me, but before that, thank the German AI Association for their support for hosting the event. Julia has been supporting us to organize the event together with the association. We're very thankful for that. Thank you, Tarek. Thank you, Damien, Maurits, for the insightful questions. Again, sorry for the guys raised the questions that we could not answer, but you will get the contacts of all the speakers. Feel free to contact them or add them on LinkedIn. You have their full names here. And we will share, by the way, the slides. I don't know if we're gonna share it over the drive or each one will do individually, but I would suggest that you contact each one of us individually if you are interested in their slides.
And thanks, Ferdinand, for the questions, and thanks to Sam for moderating the whole thing.
Thank you very much. All right. Have a nice evening, everyone, and looking forward to talk to you again on the next event.
One more thing, we're going to share the screen via Eventbrite, apparently. This is what has been told us.
I guess so. So the slides will be shared over Eventbrite. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.